Good evening, welcome to Central News for Wednesday the 18th of September. I'm Hilary Entwistle. A local Tauranga author is challenging people to start to address the major social issues that affect our society. George Bright's new book, Millennium: Unresolved Issues of Our Times, looks at child poverty and abuse and the growing income gap. He says our politicians need to look at new ways to tackle these issues, as what we are currently doing is not working.
The country is spending a lot of taxpayers' money, millions and millions and millions of it, in trying to treat the symptoms of our major social issues, and by major I mean chronic ones, the ones that are ongoing. I'm not talking about issues that come and go. We're spending millions of dollars of money which could be spent better elsewhere. And B, I want to help society become better, to move it forward. And a lot of these issues, which we're world famous for, and some of them like child abuse, need to be resolved for our own sakes, let alone the finance that's spent on them.
Two Bethlehem College students have recently competed at international music competitions and come home with top scores. Dominic Lee, a 16-year-old talented celloist, was the overall winner on the international stage at the Vialte a Venezia in Italy and also the Seoul National Music Competition in South Korea. His sister Anna Lee, who is 13, also competed at both competitions, playing the violin, and won her section at the Vialte a Venezia music competition. Anna says the competitions were a great experience and showed them just what they were capable of.
Well, it was our first time, so it really is different afterwards. I've gained so much more confidence. Yeah, that I didn't really know how good I was before. And you just kind of feel like you can go anywhere and play now without feeling kind of like, oh, I might not be as good as them and things. And it was a really, really good experience.
The risk of a major tsunami reaching the coastline of the Bay of Plenty is 7 to 13% every year, and this will be stated in LIM reports, despite the conflict. Tauranga City Council was given legal advice by Simpson Grierson that the risk of a tsunami is legally required in land information memorandums of a property. Emergency Management Manager Paul Bolton says some were concerned that it may affect house prices on coastal properties, but the council is legally obligated.
There's a high probability that the land information memorandum will include tsunami information once that information has been finalised, that we've agreed that the outputs that Tonkin and Taylor have produced for us are agreeable to the Bay of Plenty Regional Council and also to GNS Science, so it's a peer review process that we've still got to go through. Once that's done, we'll go back to Council and rediscuss the matter with them, because that was a request at the last workshop we had, that they be reconversed with on that topic, and so once that occurs in about 8 weeks' time, we'll know whether we're putting LIM information relative to tsunami and land information memorandum.
The Ames Games is seeing Tauranga and Mount Maunganui accommodation and food providers booked out and busy as students from more than 150 schools tire themselves and work up an appetite. About 6,500 intermediate students from New Zealand, Australia and the Cook Islands have descended upon Tauranga this week, and the city's hospitality industry is welcoming them with open arms. Tauranga's Motel Association president and owner of Bay Palm Motel, Gail Fagan, says as with most accommodation businesses in the area, they are fully booked, something that happens every year with the Ames Games. Bay of Plenty Regional Council is going with its second and preferred option to re-divert the Kaituna River and create new wetlands. The Regional Council has chosen the second of two options, which maximises the flow into the Onga Toro Maketu estuary while keeping Te Tumu Cut open for flood protection. Regional Council Project Manager Pim Demonchi says the preferred option will likely lead to significant ecological improvements and reduce sedimentation in the estuary. The project aims to re-divert more of the Kaituna River's outflow through Ongatoro Maketu estuary while keeping Te Tumu Cut open and to recreate at least 20 hectares of wetland habitat. Now for our region's weather, Hamilton, your Thursday will have cloud increasing and a northeasterly developing. Your expected high is 16 and an overnight low of 8. Tauranga, cloud increasing too with the chance of a late drizzle. Your expected high is 16 and an overnight low of 10. Just ahead, the new night market in Tauranga. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. A new night market is being held in Tauranga City Centre. I spoke with the organiser to find out what all the fuss is about. So how was opening night?
Oh, it was a great night. Hundreds and hundreds of people turned out. It was everything I'd hoped for. Great feedback, a lot of great fun, a lot of people saying just what Tauranga needed. Yes, it was a very great night.
What kind of stalls are there?
A great variety of stores, from local made arts and crafts to jewellery, clothing accessories, cell phone accessories, lots of food, chocolates, licorices, donuts, popcorn, amazing Thai, American hot dogs, German frankers, a real array of different cultured foods.
Now you also have live acts.
Yes, we have live acts. We have a couple so far. We have Mark Tapia, a great musician, the South American Julio Ramirez, great musician, takes you to that place of grace and tranquility. And we also have a street performer that travelled Europe for 10 years street performing, so some great acts riding a 3-metre unicycle, juggling flames. So yeah, really great for the public. Costs nothing to get in and come and see some real great live acts.
Why on a Saturday night?
Well, I think Saturday night's a great night. It doesn't interfere with existing markets, and it gives people that work and that have kids and take their daughter to netball, to Sunday rugby, the opportunity to catch a market on a Sunday night, bit of eat out and a bit of entertainment, and then go home and a night off from the responsibilities and duties of dinner.
Why did you want to organise this market and bring it to Tauranga?
Well, I've been a vendor in the market since 2010, the first full-time night market in New Zealand in Pakuranga. I really enjoyed them. I find it's a great experience. It's great to be part of it, and I felt I could add more to it and do something with it, take it to the next level.
Do you think the businesses around here will benefit as well?
Yes, I do. There's a lot of spillover revenue generated. I mean, a lot of people will come to the market will end, they decide they don't want to go home, they'll head to the movies, maybe to the local for an ale, stop at the service station. Also, vendors quite often need stock, so they go to local supermarkets and get stock. So yeah, I think it's very positive. Brings a lot of people to the CBD of Tauranga.
Do you think as, the months get hotter and summer comes along, it will start to be more popular?
Oh, for sure. I think in October when daylight savings started to get busier and busier and popular, yes, for sure.
And how often will you run the market? Every Saturday?
Yes, it's every Saturday, all year round. Over summer and Christmas period, we're looking at running a couple of days, Friday and Saturday.
So what are you hoping the summer trade will bring for the night market?
Well, I think it'll bring more and more people out as daylight savings arrives, and the market will run later. I think it'll just be better turnout and run later.
The Tauranga night markets will be on every Saturday night from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Elizabeth Street car park in the CBD. Coming up next, should we be following in the steps of the new Australian government? Welcome back. Tony Abbott is the new Prime Minister of Australia, and part of his campaign to get there was his promise to extend paid parental leave. Labour-list MP Sue Moroney says if Australians want extended paid parental leave, why are we not getting it? Welcome to the program, Sue. So you are always been an advocate. This is your bill, the paid parental leave. Now, what's happened in Australia that's giving you a little bit more of a push?
Well, very interestingly, over in Australia, the Conservative Party, who actually won the election in the end, came out with a pledge to have 6 months paid parental leave in Australia. So they currently have 18 weeks, and it was only 2 years ago that they got any paid parental leave, so they're actually moving at a fast rate of knots. The interesting thing I think about this is that Tony Abbott is really John Key's counterpart across the Tasman, and he went out with this pledge to deliver 6 months paid parental leave. Here in New Zealand, we've got John Key doing the opposite, saying despite the fact that the public want it and the majority of parliamentarians want it and are prepared to vote it through, he's going to actually stop it from going ahead by using a financial veto. So something's not quite gelling across the Tasman. They've got a completely different take on this, and the Australian public voted in a government who had that pledge.
But I mean, Australia is financially better off though than us, aren't they?
Well, they are, but then their promises actually are significantly more than ours. Even though I'm talking about 6 months, I'm talking about 6 months paid at the rate of paid parental leave that we have here. The Tony Abbott pledge is hugely more costly than that because he's paying at people's actual wages. So for people who are earning up to $120,000. So it's a significantly more costly pledge than the bill that I've put forward. And I know that having looked at the costings that we actually can do it in this country, it does mean that we've got to make some really smart choices about how we use taxation. But look, we can do it within taxation. The Tony Abbott version of paid parental leave is that employers pay for it. So quite a different version of it, but nonetheless recognising how important it is for mums and dads to have up to 6 months at home with their newborn baby.
Do you think maybe we should be looking at our employers paying paid parental leave then, like the Australians?
Well, look, there was at least one submitter who came to the select committee and said exactly that, that it shouldn't be the individual employer who's employing the woman who's off on paid parental leave, but perhaps there should be an employer levy across the board. And I think that's got merit to be looked at sometime down the track, but I know that we don't need it to get to 6 months.
So how much are they going to give in Australia?
Well, they will be looking to bring in that 6 months in terms of duration, and that was the election pledge from Tony Abbott. It got him across the line, and he's now going to have to deliver on that. So it's going to be very interesting to watch that space, because there is a bit of opposition to it, of course, from employers, because their levies are going to go up as a result. In New Zealand, we're not asking employers to foot the bill at all. So the opposition from employers is virtually disappeared in New Zealand.
So what is the difference between an Australian family population, general one, and one here? Have we got more kids?
The population demographics are around about the same in Australia as they are in New Zealand. So we both face this problem where we've got the baby boomer generation all starting to move into retirement, and where we have generally a smaller proportion of our population are children. But we also face the same problem where it's our Indigenous population who have a younger population demographic. So more and more of our children will be Māori and Pacifica in this country. In Australia, more and more of their younger population will be Aboriginal.
And why did you put this bill forward? Remind us again, why did you put this bill forward?
Well, it seemed to me that if we really wanted to deliver this brighter future that the government keeps talking about, that we need to invest in those early years. All the research and evidence tells us that if we invest properly in those early years, we save a lot of money down the track, because we get it right there, and in particular with paid parental leave, if we get bonding and attachment going really well in those early months between mum and baby or dad and baby, and we know that that baby is going to have a much more successful life trajectory from there on in. That means that as taxpayers we're less likely to spend money on remedial education for them. We're less likely to spend health care dollars on them, and actually we're less likely to have to build a prison cell for them, quite frankly. So there's a lot of research and evidence that underpins this. It's about actually getting it right at the beginning so that we have a society that is fully engaged and productive and participating.
So the Prime Minister has vetoed your bill?
Well, no, he's threatened to. He hasn't done it yet because he's not able to do it until after my bill's been through its committee stages in Parliament. So there's a little bit of water to go under that bridge yet, because the bill hasn't actually had its second reading yet. So it's had its first reading. It got through by one vote. So we have the majority of Parliament in favour of it. The submissions have been heard, and the Select Committee is just preparing to report its findings back to Parliament for the second reading debate.
If it fails at second reading, what will you do? Will you push for it?
I'm really feeling very positive that it will be successful at second reading, because I think all of the parties that have supported it so far are still convinced that it's the right thing to do. So I would be very surprised if it was defeated at second reading, but I'm working hard to make sure every single one of those votes stays intact, I can tell you.
Well, all the best with the second reading then. Thank you very much, Sue.
Thank you.
Coming up next, the export industry in New Zealand. Are we losing money? If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. The Avocado Conference was last week, and Dr. Russell Ballard made some very interesting comments about how our produce industry may not be making the full potential of its profits. I spoke with him about why this may be and the very complicated Chinese market. What is the potential for further export growth in the avocado industry?
The government growth agenda is looking for our food and beverage exports to triple by 2025. And there's every indication that avocados can, in themselves, match that target for their particular produce. In fact, the Avocado Growers Association is actually hoping that they'll quadruple the value of their exports.
So how do we go about doing that?
Two things basically. You've got to increase the volume that you've got to export, and the other one is to maximise the value return that you get from selling those. And my analysis of the industry, increasing the volume should not be all that difficult, because if you check it out, they have this very irregular bearing of their trees. So if you fix that one, that will almost probably double their production. And the other one is if you just have a look at the characteristics across the growers, the average grower, their yield is only about 1/4 of that of the best growers. So there's an opportunity for sort of management and skill transfer from the best to the average to push that average up. So if they could get that up to half of what the best did, that would be almost doubling their production as well. Lots of opportunities in that area. And the value side, of course, then they've got to sell those and hope that they'll extract a lot of money. And there's big opportunities. Australia was their dominant market, but that's probably likely to decline in the future. So they're moving very rapidly now to open up new markets in the Asian area. At the moment, that's focused on places like Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, but not China.
So why not China?
If you want to get a plant product into a country, you've got to demonstrate that you don't have any pests or diseases in your country which they don't want in their country. And if you do, you then got to negotiate with them what you'll do to exclude those organisms or critters from the product that you export. And right at the moment, because the Chinese will only negotiate one product at a time for negotiating what's called phytosanitary access, it's second on the pecking order, but we expect very shortly it will rise to the top because its potential value in that Chinese market is a lot higher than the other product which is currently sitting on there trying to be negotiated.
And what potentially could that export mean?
Well, a lot of hard work initially because you can't just walk in there and think you'll be getting huge big premiums that the kiwi fruit do. So you've got to get yourself in there, establish yourself. But after a few years, if you can provide consistent quality product, appearance is good, work well with the people, have very high quality standards associated with it and provide them with consistent volumes, you'll soon start to establish a premium market in there. And that's what we need to do with New Zealand products. You don't want to sell it cheap. That's no good to us. But China, of course, has got a huge developing both affluent and middle class group in the population, a huge group there now. And that's the target group for selling a nice premium product that comes out of some place like New Zealand.
And we had a similar situation with apples and critters, is that right?
Yes, well, it's exactly the same issue. It's the same issue as when we were trying to sell apples into Australia. Australia didn't want our apples because we have fire blight over here, which purportedly they do not have in Australia. But we were able to then, over time, work with the Australians about the assurance systems that we would put around our apples and the treatments which are subject to them, so that they could be confident that no fire blight would arrive in Australia. And once those systems were put into place and they've checked them out and accept them, we're free to export. We'll have to do the same thing for avocados into China.
And is that about the avocado industry properly marketing and branding themselves?
Oh, it certainly is. The branding bit is more around the promotion of avocados as a group, because avocados are interesting. Most of the avocados which are traded are a single type, the Hass type avocado. So we're all doing that. What New Zealand needs to do is sort of trade around our country brand, that our environment is nice and clean, therefore it's unlikely that there'll be anything horrible inside the in the fruit. But more importantly is that we can provide with very good quality assurance systems, consistent high quality product, and back them up and always supply it on time when they need it, because that's what the retailers over there want. They want a nice consistent supply that they can make money out of.
How do we ensure that we meet that quality?
Well, yeah, that becomes another issue at the moment, because if you just pick it off the tree, it only takes so long before it ripens. And there are storage mechanisms that they're looking at now, so you can extend the time that you can store it and release it. You need that both because we have to ship it a long way, and the other one is to extend your season in which you're able to provide it. Because if you only have a narrow little window that you're in there, each time you go in, as soon as you go out, someone else is going to go into that space, on the shopping shelves and stuff like this. And then if they make a lot of money out of that, you might not be able to re-displace them to get back in there. So the longer you keep the window there that you're supplying, the better.
That is the news for today. We really want you to be involved. So like us on Facebook and let us know your views. If you have news including your own video and photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. I will be here again tomorrow night with more guests from in and around our regions. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.